Welcome to the FW de Klerk Foundation's Constitution at Work podcast, where we explore how South Africa's constitution shapes the real-world experience of rights and freedoms. Now, today's episode focuses on a deeply structural issue that affects millions of South Africans, namely housing and urban reform. Now, according to the Foundation's Human Rights Report Card, released earlier this year, spatial inequality and housing challenges continue to limit access to opportunity, economic participation, and the right to dignity. I am joined by my colleagues, Lusanda Mahkuntsu and Mpone Komako, and together we'll unpack the Foundation's key recommendations, looking at how housing reform can help build a more inclusive and equitable society.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lusanda Mahkuntsu. I am an intern under the Constitutional Rights Program at the Foundation. I also hold an LLM in Intellectual Property Law.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mpone Komako. I am also an intern at the Foundation under the Constitutional Rights Program. I'm also currently doing my LLM in Environmental Law at the University of Pretoria.
So let's start with the bigger picture. What are the main housing and urban challenges in South Africa?
Lusanda, one of the biggest challenges is spatial inequality, which is a legacy of apartheid spatial planning. And many South Africans still live far away from economic centers without adequate infrastructure and in informal or underserviced settlements. This limits access to jobs, services, and opportunities. So the question becomes, how do we restructure cities to bring people closer to opportunities?
So, Daneila, what does the Foundation recommend to address spatial inequality, as you've mentioned that it is one of the biggest challenges in South Africa?
Mpone, the Foundation recommends focusing on affordable urban housing as a key solution. The goal is to ensure that more people can live closer to where economic activity is taking place. And this reduces their transport costs, which we are all feeling with the increase in petrol prices due to the war, travel time, as well as other barriers to employment. Now, once we address location, the next question becomes, how do we deliver housing at scale?
So, Daneila, you mentioned that the Foundation recommends an affordable housing as a key solution. I want to know, how does the Foundation suggest scaling up housing delivery?
So, Lusanda, a central recommendation is to use the state land that already exists, combined with revenue sharing finance models to deliver mixed income housing at scale. Now, what this means is that we use public land that the state owns more effectively. We partner with private sector developers who build buildings and ensure developments include both low and middle income housing. Now, this model has been successfully used in countries like Turkey, but importantly, delivering housing at scale also requires better coordination at the municipal level.
Daneila, we all know that municipalities are the sphere of government closest to the people. I want to know, what role do municipalities play in housing reform?
Mpone, municipalities are absolutely critical, and the Foundation recommends that municipalities ring-fence urban development funding so that it can't be used for anything else and can only go towards increasing access to affordable urban housing in the municipality, and that the municipality drives public-private partnerships to deliver housing. Now, this ensures that funds are used effectively, projects are delivered efficiently, and infrastructure supports housing development. Without strong local governance, even well-designed policies, Mpone, will fail.
So, Daneila, I believe that this leads us to another key issue: financing affordability. Housing affordability is a major issue. What solutions are proposed?
Lusanda, you hit the nail on the head of one of the major problems, and the Foundation recommends piloting a targeted affordable rental tax credit linked to location. Now, this would incentivize developers to build and maintain affordable housing in areas where it's most needed. And the aim is not just to make housing available, but to make it sustainably affordable. But beyond affordability, I do have to say that we also need to think about how housing shapes the broader structure of cities.
How does housing connect to economic opportunity?
Mpone, housing is directly linked to access to the economy. Like we've already said, many people live far away from the urban areas where the jobs are. Now, if people live far from jobs, their transport costs rise, time that they lose is increased, and employment opportunities that they have access to decrease. And by improving urban housing, we bring people closer to workplaces, we increase their labor market participation, and we support economic growth. In other words, we support job creation. So housing reform is not just a social policy, Mpone, it is an economic policy. And this ties in with the broader challenges of urban housing planning.
So what changes are needed in urban planning more broadly?
Lusanda, in short, the foundation recommends combining housing delivery with urban renewal powers and integrated planning. And practically, this means releasing well-located public land, planning mixed-use developments, and integrating transport, housing, and services. The goal is to create cities that are inclusive, functional, and economically dynamic. But achieving this also requires addressing historical patterns of exclusion.
So, Daneila, why is spatial segregation still such a major issue today, despite it being a legacy of the apartheid system?
Mpone, spatial segregation persists because historical patterns have not been fully undone. And as we've already said, many people still live in areas far away from the economic activity with limited infrastructure, and this reduces their access to opportunity. And the foundation emphasizes that addressing spatial inequality is essential to reducing inequality itself, expanding opportunity, and building a more inclusive society. And this links directly to constitutional rights.
Daneila, so what are the governance challenges affecting housing delivery?
Lusanda, among the key challenges are weak service delivery, poor coordination between government spheres, and limited accountability. Now, these issues slow down housing delivery and reduce its effectiveness. Now, the Foundation's recommendations are to improve coordination so that no one works in silos, to strengthen accountability, and to ensure better uses of resources. So, for example, we've already mentioned ring fencing urban development resources, because without effective governance, reform can't succeed.
So finally, I want to know, how do these recommendations tie back to the Constitution?
Mpone, the Constitution guarantees the right to access adequate housing. But beyond that, housing is also closely linked to the rights to dignity and equality, as well as to freedom of movement and people's ability to participate in the economy, which itself links to many rights and freedoms in the Constitution's Bill of Rights. When people are excluded from well-located housing, many of these rights are undermined. And the Foundation's recommendations aim to ensure that urban development supports real access to opportunity, not just physical shelter. What becomes clear is that housing reform is not just about building homes. It is about reshaping South African society. And the FW de Klerk Foundation's recommendations highlight a path forward: affordable urban housing, better use of public land, stronger municipal governance, and integrated urban planning. Ultimately, where people live determines how they live and whether they can fully participate in society. Ensuring fair and inclusive housing is therefore essential to making the Constitution a lived reality. To our viewers, thank you for joining us on the Constitution at Work podcast. If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe for more insights into how the Constitution shapes South Africa today. Until next time.